Sally, I hear something. Stop. Stop.
There. Is the tone set for this one? Good. Let's get into it before someone complains I didn't talk about the movie for X amount of seconds and I can go back to playing RuneScape.
We're at 1100 Eagle Bill Road. The flame front has passed us and is moving north along I-5. Construction is right with the flame.
And although meth has been a problem in the past, another drug is on the rise in the Rogue Valley.
Just to put that in comparison, if you look at 2004 to 2011, that entire 8-year period, we had a total of 14 heroin overdose deaths. Sometimes heroin is a relatively inexpensive alternative.
Many Republicans opposed the bill because of concerns over new protections for gays and lesbians and the expanded authority of tribal courts.
So apparently when he hit so hard, I flew back, hit the headrest of the seat, and the seat broke off at the base.
I think it's time I talk about one of my favorite movies, like, ever. I don't think it's fair to say I'd be the same kind of guy without this film, because not only do I hold this movie over something as mind-tickling as Begotten, or as deep and sentimental as Silent Hill 2. Man, this is just my kind of movie, and I think we all have one of those movies. You know the one. There's always that one movie that you can watch over and over, and it never ceases to make you feel similar to the first time you saw it, because it left such an impact. For some, it's a wonderful animation that never left your mind after childhood and makes you feel all warm inside. For some, it's a spicy movie that you recall watching to get you fired up before a long, passion-filled night of debauchery. For me, well, I'm just built different. I grew up pretty poor in the middle of nowhere with hardly anyone around me but animals and the occasional murderous or crazy neighbor. No joke, I lived on a 100-acre farm and my next-door neighbor raised hundreds of pigs for slaughter. The neighbors across us directly were some of the most notorious meth dealers in all of Southern Oregon. The people further down from us were secluded, flighty, and dangerous hermits, and all around us, nothing. Nowhere. And this ever-present sense of isolation in a long-forgotten place and time. Like, if you scraped the stones inside of a dried-out creek, the sound would travel down through some ancient tunnels into a world that time forgot, covered in some dead moss and animal bones or shit. So, does that explain why one of my all-time favorite films, right under Pulp Fiction, is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Well, duh. Like I said, some people, they like films that comfort them, or that bring them some sense of nostalgia. I like films that remind me of the bleakest aspects of both humanity and nature because I'm broken and damaged and that's what gets me off. TCM is a colossal film, and it's one of those films you'll hear people say is one of the best horror movies ever made, or as the kids say, scary AF, and you know what? They're actually 100% correct. This movie is indeed scary as fuck, and it is indeed a juggernaut amongst horror films, especially for the time it came out. Now, there's this group of people who will complain that the movie is too shallow or too short or not gory enough, and to all of you out there that think that, you're fucking wrong! I'm right, and if you agree with me, you're a great person, and you're totally handsome and beautiful and get all the boys or girls. Or both. It's 2025, I have to stop being so goddamn heteronormative, okay? So why am I talking about this film? Well, quite frankly, because I love it and want to talk about it, and to prove to the other cool guys out there that there's a lot going on in this film and makes you feel like you learned something in the process at the end of this. This is an educational channel, damn it. You're going to learn something by the end of this, unlike those other hacks out there who want to sell you NordVPN and repeat the same 10 things about this movie. Now, just a bit of context about myself. If this is your first video of mine, you don't have to watch everything on screen if you don't want to. I'm a very non-visual person, and my strength lies in writing and presentation, so I don't really care if you lower the video and do something else. Second, I do not own the film, claim to own the film, or have any affiliations with the film, so all the footage is strictly for educational and analytical purposes, so if this somehow gets flags, hey YouTube, Figure it out. There's entire films and albums on the platform that are more important than my sweary breakdown. Also, I don't believe in running ads on my videos, so if you see one, slap that shit off with an ad blocker or something and give the system the middle finger. However, if you want to, I have a Patreon in the description, and all the money I get through that goes to mainly just my cat who has diabetes, the stray animals I feed, and that's about it. I have a full-time job, I'm a big boy and take care of myself. YouTube is a passion hobby for me, and I have no intention of trying to shove product placement or bullshit down your throat. I just want to discuss the movie and have some fun. So, without further ado, why don't you folks come on in for some barbecue? Won't you stay? So, are you ready? Good. This video series is going to be broken into 3 sections: the synopsis, a scene-by-scene breakdown, and my personal experience with the film. I'm also going to just call the movie TCM from now on. It's not like I'm going to be talking about Turner Classic Movies or the hip new band Titty Cock Magnet. I can talk about that later if you want, but I don't think you want to hear about that right now. TCM was directed by Tobe Hooper and was released in 1974, and I think we all know this by now, but if you don't, it was made with the absolute shoeiest of shoestring budgets. This not only gives the film a very grounded, real-world vibe, but it adds something special to the vibe that's really difficult to replicate even today. There's this deep sense of darkness to the shot compositions, coupled with a thin layer of sweat and grime, all washed over with film grain. It's fucking unsettling and amazing. The tone is also something that further films in the franchise try so hard to replicate, but they just can't get it down, and honestly, it's for the better, and I think it's what makes the first TCM really feel like it was lightning in a bottle. There's still people to this day that think that this was a real event. I'm not even kidding, whether it be blissful ignorance, misinformation, or, you know, those kinds of people. I can't stress it enough, man, okay? Let's do a little roleplay, and please don't click off after I said that. Imagine you're a stupid kid in the 70s. You got some stupid hair, some stupid clothes, and have some stupid friends. The internet doesn't exist yet, and you can't just go on Best Gore to make yourself sick, so you do the next best thing and somehow get into the theater to go see TCM. If you heard that opening crawl with zero way to prove it, I guarantee you, you'd believe that this actually happened. And you know what? It could happen. So let's talk about why you're here. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oil storage units continue to burn out of control at the huge Texaco refinery near the Texas-Louisiana border. 3 stories.
This masterclass of film starts out with no music, just some names without proper grammar, and then a narration for what you're about to see. We get to know some names and that this film is a retelling of a horrible crime dubbed The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Also, those curious, this wasn't going to be the name of the film either. It was actually going to be called either Head Cheese or Leatherface, which this movie also gladly tells you how head cheese is made, by the way. Not only is it fun, it's an educational film. They could even make a video game. Oh, wait. We then hear nothing for a bit, and we get to hear what sounds like digging, struggle, and a few spooky images of a corpse. I'll also, like I said earlier, be doing a deep, thorough dive on all this stuff in the next video, so if you want to know more about the artsy side of the video, just wait. After a bit, we get a cool pan-out shot revealing the corpse is stuck on a grave attached to another body, and oh god, let me just say, this movie makes you feel the heat of Texas. I'm from Oregon, and yeah, we get some nasty triple-digit weather, but shit, this movie just makes you feel sticky by the end of it. And not in that way. The radio in the background starts to talk about things we're looking at, leaving the viewer to just take in this absurdity. And like, this whole scene is just a wonderful start for what you're about to watch. It sets it all up right here. Hot, gross, and surreal. Just like your mom. We're then treated to a cool shot of the sun as the radio continues to tell you about Detroit crime, all of this fucking incredible ambient piece. Now, you all know how I really don't like to spoil my own thoughts, but I have to say briefly that holy fuck, Tobe Hooper's soundtrack for this film is arguably my favorite score to a film, like, ever. It's haunting, chaotic, brooding, and no amount of adjectives can describe how it makes me feel, and I can't stress it enough, it adds so much to the atmosphere of this film, but you know me, I'll talk about it later. Eventually we're introduced to our cast, and believe it or not, as many times since I've seen this film, I can only remember 2 characters' names because they're barely relevant, but they do have some differences in personality traits, and like always, I'll talk about each character later on, because there is some nuance to their outfits and mannerisms. I said mannerisms, damn it, get your mind out of the gutter. The man in blue is named Kirk, who initially in my note-taking session I was writing as Kurt for a while. Oops. He's the boyfriend of Pam, the woman reading the New Age hippie bullshit book. Jerry's the guy driving the van, rocking threads that prove why I think the 70s had the most fuck-ugly fashion of all time. Now, it's never really mentioned, but I think it's implied that Jerry is with Sally, who's actually the lead of the film, and Franklin is her brother, the guy in the wheelchair. By the way, you know a movie is off to a good start when the first scene to introduce a character is them taking a piss into a coffee can, and then having to get blasted off the side of the road? Yeah, not a good look, man. Pam starts reading some bullshit that people actually still believe, while her friends just sort of sit there and humor her, and their van creeps over to the Pickle Graveyard, which is the same graveyard from a few shots ago, and we see that the news wasn't complete dog doo-doo for once, and people are all over the place in response to the grave robbing incident from earlier. This is why the group is here as well, because Franklin and Sally's grandfather was buried here, and they want to check to make sure things are still okay. We also get a subtle hint that this whole area is just kind of fucked up as well, because this dude is publicly drunk right near law enforcement, which is a 10 out of 10 idea, by the way. This weird moment really does add to the whole hyper-reality or uncertainty the film is trying to convey. I'll talk about what it means later on, but you know, I'll let you sink into this hot, nasty bath and just relax a bit. The group then coasts by a nearby slaughterhouse, and we learn Franklin really doesn't know how to communicate before they notice a nearby hitchhiker who, yeah, this is where I have to break my own in the vacuum rule for a minute and talk about, fuck me, the other TCM films. So as far as I'm concerned, the other TCM films are pretty shithouse. I don't think it's bad if you personally like them, they're still a fun ride, but nothing ever really captures the tone of this film, and as a standalone product, it's fine as is. TCM2, which is an actual sequel to this film, does give this guy a name briefly, but it's Nubbins. But as far as this analysis goes, I'll just call him either the brother or the hitchhiker. In the credits, he's just listed as the hitchhiker. By the way, canonically the family that the hitchhiker is part of is named the Sawyer family, which was introduced in the sequels as well. The group are obviously a little bit uncomfortable by this Dracula-looking motherfucker, but he does say my favorite line in this movie that I quote to this day because it tickles me just right.
Oh, that gun's no good.
Hitch then shows Franklin some spicy nudes and talks about his love of meat like Hank Hill would talk about propane. This doesn't bode well as he takes Franklin's knife from him and cuts his life into pieces, and as a last resort takes Franklin's picture. When nobody wants to pay him a whopping $2, he decides to do some magic with a K, cut Franklin, and get his ass booted back outside. The best course of action after a traumatic incident, according to Pam, is to read Sally and Franklin's horoscope rather than, calling the fucking cops like Kirk was wanting to do, but that's fine, it was the 70s, I guess. The gang then drives to a gas station, and if you're keen-eyed, you'll notice that the sign reads, "We Slaughter Barbecue," which is a clever dark joke, but the family still canonically is named Sawyer. The place is ran by Drayton Sawyer, who also appears in the sequel, but here he's just called the cook, and in the credits is just listed as Old Man. Franklin asks if Drayton knows where the Franklin house is. Yeah, his dad's named Franklin, I'm guessing, because him and Sally's last name is Hardesty. I'm not sure if this was a continuity error, but it always bothered me for some reason. Either way, Drayton suggests the group just stick around the area for a while for the gas shipment to come in, and Jerry decides to double check if the gas station isn't the only one around. Franklin then asks Kirk a question even a fucking 4-year-old can answer, while expressing a growing concern about the hitchhiker they ran into. Jerry explains that the closest place to get gas is the nearby town of Newt, but the group still wants to go to the Franklin house, which now changes from Franklin's dad house to grandfather's house. Yeah, I never said this movie was perfect. Before she gets back in, Sally notices a bloody mark the hitchhiker left behind, and after the guys pull over to let Franklin look at it, he grows more paranoid, and to his credit, he's actually taking this kind of seriously, unlike everyone else who apparently just walked into a cloud of dank weed that's in the mystery relative's house. Franklin then has a complete mental breakdown, which, God, I love this movie. Anyways, Kirk and Pam ask about the swimming spot nearby, and as they leave, Franklin notices a peculiar oddity on the ground as well as in the door frame. We cut to Kirk and Pam talking mad shit about Franklin as they try to find the swimming spot when they hear a generator in the distance and try to think of a plan to get some gas from whoever's running it. Also, how the fuck would they not consider this trespassing? You can say I'm a pea-brained shut-in Oregonian and I don't understand the country. Oh, wait. But, man, even where I'm from, someone walking around your property is a big no-no. The two walk to the front of the house, and Kirk continues to be a complete tool bag by pissing off Pam, and essentially just barges into the house after knocking is a no-go. Now, call me crazy, but if I was this blue-clothed bastard, I would have turned around as soon as I saw the very ominous red skull-adorned wall with pig sounds coming from the distance. Like I said, I guess it was just the 70s. Kirk decides the best idea is to burst into a full-blown jog, trips like a fucking idiot, and bumps into the star of the TCM franchise, Leatherface. And what a wicked cool way to introduce him.
Did you just say wicked cool?
Yeah, dude. I'm 13 again.
Yes, what decade is this?
There's no music, sting, or screaming, just a quick camera shot and a hammer to Kirk's stupid blonde 70s head. Leatherface drags him off, slams the door shut, and Pam decides to see what's up, and we get one of the most iconic and important camera shots of all time. This scene isn't just a cool, oh look at that ass shot. No, this is quality and sound camera work. So much that damn near every TCM movie after it tried to replicate it, and the inside of my DVD case has it on the inside. It's that good. Pam then goes into the house and then falls into the literal mouth of hell itself. Man, people in the 70s just sucked at everything. It must have been that ghastly fashion. Also, can I just take a minute and say this scene is one of the coolest things ever created by human hands? It's not just the music, that's just the lovely icing on the cake. It's the camera movement, the momentum of each angle ramping up, and the utterly bizarre and horrific decorations. It's like if you liquefied an existential crisis and filtered it through death metal, and it's fucking rad. In an attempt to call for Kirk, Pam dials 1-800-BIG-BOYS and summons Leatherface from the back room, who grabs her so fast it knocks her shoes off. Alright, quick pause because let's talk about it. We all know the thing I'm about to say next, but it's inevitable in a TCM retrospective to talk about it. This whole scene is one of the most non-gory and horrifying moments in the film. Your brain fills in what's not shown on camera. It's like a coloring book where you fill in the blood. It can't be stressed enough that TCM isn't a blood-soaked tit-flopping swear-fest of a movie. It's subdued on the visceral and plays highly into the psychological, and it's almost a cultural meme at this point that I honestly didn't even really want to bring it up, because literally everyone and their mother talks about it, but I guess I should mention it at some point or the other. The whole point of horror to me and many others is to trick the mind into thinking you're in danger, to experience a rush or a sense of unease. TCM is still a horror film, yeah, and some argue it's considered an exploitation film, but it's very much a psychological type of horror. It's a horror that sinks deep into your mind with little claws attached to decaying fingers which leave behind toxic grime after you pull them out. Yeah, it's that kind of scary, and I love it. We cut back to Jerry ripping on Franklin, who's still very much in the right for being nervous, I might add, before Jerry decides to go off and find the swimming spot. Probably to smoke some pot, because this is the 70s. Jerry eventually comes across a Sawyer house and notices one of the towels that Pam and Kirk brought with them, which makes him think that the couple is just playing games because, you know, this is the 70s. Unaware of the fact he's trespassing, Jerry goes into the back room and inspects a freezer where Pam's wriggling corpse freaks him out, and then Leatherface freaks him out. To death. Literally. Because this is the 70s. This scene also started a trend that every other TCM film would try to capitalize on, and you know what? I think it's fine in later films. Humanizing Leatherface. It's kind of a cliche in modern film, but it's pretty cool to see a movie of this age try to show that this guy isn't a complete sadist. Leatherface looks concerned and nervous, and you know, I love how Gunnar Hansen nails this role. He really makes you feel kind of bad for this lunatic. We then cut back to Sally and Franklin arguing about what to do next, and after what I'm assuming is a totally normal and healthy sibling argument, they head off to look for the rest of their group. After a fairly well-earned jump scare, Leatherface gets some more ammo off of Franklin and goes after Sally. Fuck, I can only imagine how this must have been to see in theaters the first time. It's truly a nerve-wracking chase scene. Sally eventually screams her way to the Sawyer house, gets inside, and bolts upstairs to find some help. Well, needless to say, she finds Grandpa and Grandma Sawyer, the latter of which is essentially mummified, along with her own collection of woodland critters and pets. Leatherface gets inside and forces Sally to commit property damage, and the chase continues back into the woods. The two tiptoe through the tulips back to the gas station from the start of the film, where Sally collapses into a mess in front of Drayton and asks for help. It's a nice attention to detail, by the way. If you notice that when Sally is staring at the sausages, you can see one of them's actually missing from the rightmost of the rack, and it's likely the one that Franklin ate earlier. That's cute, man. Drayton comes back with a smile and a rope, and man, like I said earlier, I can't imagine the actual shock in the audience on this twist. He knocks Sally out with the most weak slap a middle-aged man can muster with a broomstick and binds and gags her, stuffs her into a sack, and drives off with her. Eventually, Chef Boyardee runs into the hitchhiker from earlier and scolds him for his grave robbing, which also helps the audience make sense of who made all the weird corpse art that's in the house in the area. Drayton also confirms that Leatherface and the hitchhiker are brothers, and canonically, Drayton is the eldest brother of the three. We also see another staple of the later films. Leatherface's different masks that he puts on for different occasions. It's a small touch that adds to his character, in my opinion. After Hitch goes to get Grandpa from upstairs, we get a cool scene of the cook and his fragmented personality, which is just unsettling. Jim Sato did such a fantastic job of portraying this guy, and I can't blame them for getting him to come back for the sequel. He's just that great to watch. Grandpa eventually enters the scene, and it's at this point the audience realize that he's not actually dead, but barely alive, and drinks from Sally's finger, which causes her to faint. She then wakes up to yet another staple of every TCM film after, the dinner scene. This is such an iconic and important scene for a lot of reasons, and it's exactly why each dinner scene, copyright trademark, and the other films never captures the brutality and anxiety that this one really does. It's nerve-wracking, it's disorienting, it's hellish. Each second that passes is just this crescendo of crazy that never lets off the gas. It goes from 0 to 100 to 150 to 1,000, and the first time you watch it, it feels like you're trapped in Sally's sweaty and blood-drenched skin. The sounds, the facial expressions, fuck man, if you wanted to bottle up what depravity and cruelty is like, it's this. The boys decide to let Grandpa kill Sally, to which leads to the most intense moment of the film. After Grandpa's hands just aren't strong enough, Hitch loses his shit and lets go of Sally, accidentally letting her bolt out and cause more property damage. Leatherface and Hitch take chase, with Hitch wandering into the road as he cuts at Sally with his razor. An absolute unit of a man driving an absolute unit of a vehicle turns Hitch into a fucking mess of mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and giblets on the road. Sally comes limping along and screaming with Leatherface right on her ass, and I love how the trucker is just like, "Oh fuck this dude," and just bolts back to his rig. Also, I know Leatherface isn't exactly a powerhouse of intellect, but come on man, this is such a skill issue on his part. Trucker McGee grabs a wrench off the floor and beams Leatherface in his leather face, which makes him cut his leg. Yes, I know that was a real cut, but it was on a piece of meat with a metal plate protecting Gunner. The heat from the plate was what hurt him, not the chainsaw. Don't try to feel smart for telling me something I already know, you fucking sheep. However, Leatherface is a fucking Chad and gets up and still tries to go after Sally as an oncoming dude pulls a That's So 70s U-turn at the ensuing weirdness. I'd also like to point out that Trucker McGee just fucking books it, man. I bet to this day he's still running. Tobe Hooper just said, "Run, man," and he took it literally because he never heard him say cut. That's a true story you hear so much about. Sally gets into the shitty Chevy and Leatherface gets left behind with one of the most iconic, frenetic, and jarring endings ever made. Also, congratulations, you can breathe. The movie's over. So, does Texas Chainsaw Massacre hold up even after all these years? Fuck, man, were you really expecting me to say no? Yes! Yes! This is arguably one of the most important, crucial, and impactful films of all time. It's not just me saying that, it's influenced fucking hundreds of people, from filmmakers to musicians and artists to idiots like me. There's a reason that people still talk about this movie rather than something like the Nail Gun Massacre. Okay, well, that movie's worth talking about for different reasons, but still. When it comes to the granddaddy of low-budget, anxiety-inducing, and realistic films, I don't even think you can come close to the 12-foot dick this film slaps you across the face with. Please pretend I didn't say that. It's grimy, sweaty, uncomfortable, and it lasts for an hour and a half. It doesn't matter how many times I watch this movie, as soon as it's over I feel less tense and like I just passed an emotional kidney stone. There's something so captivating about the way this movie looks, sounds, and feels, and I really can't explain it no matter how many words I throw at it. And you know what? That's what I'm going to do in the next video. A scene-by-scene breakdown of the film, going over all the little subtle pieces that make this monolith of a movie so damn enthralling to keep coming back to. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.